Welcome to Distinctions for Life live stream on New Year's Day. Yes, 2020 is over. 2021 has begun. And you know what? I woke up this morning feeling great. I'm not really a firm believer that there's any real change between December 31st and January 1st. Normally, I'm just pretty cool with either, it doesn't feel like they changed. But this morning, I woke up, went to a New Year's Eve small, I swear it was small gathering of people, and actually came home before midnight, and because it was snowing. There were probably 3 inches of snow on my car between the time I got to the thing and the time we left, which was about 2.5 hours later. For Abilene, that much snow in that short of time is pretty unusual. So we came home, we went to bed, woke up, everything is covered in snow, and it's beautiful and white. And I just woke up thinking, you know what? Things are good. I feel good about things. And I ended up doing some journaling. If you follow me on Instagram, you would see the first line of that journal, and it is hopefully pretty cool. If you are here and you want to leave a comment, just feel free to do that below. I'll try to pay attention to those as we go. What is this? So in January 1st of 2020, what I did was a goal-setting clatch, is what I called it. And that was a group of us sitting around at the domain here in Abilene, going through the goal-setting method that I taught at the end of 2020, in the end of 2019 last year. So we were doing some goal setting. Well, the world changed. So having a group meeting to do goal setting again this year didn't happen, wasn't going to happen. And what I did, I also learned something from that, in that this goal setting method that I have isn't something you really do in a group. You do it, it's deep work, actually, the planning out of your goals. Maybe the sort of brainstorming what you should be doing can be done in a group, but the actual writing of the goals and the action steps that go with those goals and the things you have to give up for them, the things you're going to have to say no to, all of that really takes some concentration on your part. And so it's not really conductive to doing as a group. So that's not what I planned to do this year. Not only because I didn't want to have a group meeting, but also because I figured out that doing the goal setting thing was something that you are better off doing on your own. And so I wanted to start this off by reviewing my goals from 2020, my goals for 2020. And this is going to be a first, because I don't think I've ever shown anybody my actual goal list. So if you are here or watching this later, you will see Ron's 2020 goal list and how well I did at accomplishing those. You may need to go full screen. I'm about to go full screen on my side just so that I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing and you can watch it. But these were my goals, and this is a Notion page that I created to track my goals. And it has a number of interesting facets to it. It's a Notion sheet, so you can, in some cases, there's more detail. Maybe I'll go over that in a second. I can't click on them because I'm actually looking at the screen share and not at the Notion page. But maybe I'll go over there in just a second. But I am going to talk a little about these goals. And let's start with the ones that I did accomplish in 2020, because that's the way this is sorted. So, one thing that happened at the very end of 2019 was I wrecked my Model S in the first week of December of that year. And so I was out, I didn't have a car. I was driving my old pickup truck, which is great for Texas, but after you drive in a Tesla Model S for 2 or 3 years, a pickup truck ain't the greatest thing, especially not one that's old. Anyway, and I had gotten insurance money from that wreck, but it wasn't enough, right? It's never enough. So I didn't have enough to buy a new one, even of the same car I had, which was a 2014. And so I set a goal that I would find a way to get a new Tesla by the middle of the year. And I actually accomplished it on June 15th. I found one via a website, a 2015, interestingly enough, in Florida, which is where I bought my last one. Here's a little tip. If you want to own a Tesla, you want to own a Model S, I suggest that you buy one used. I kind of have the feel like you have a choice, and this is kind of where I was. You have a choice between a Model 3 that's brand new, but the cheapest you can get, or a Model S that's a few years old with some decent mileage on it. Not more than, well, probably not more than 50 or 60. The one I bought had a little over 50 on it. And that's about what the one before it had. But if you buy a Model S made before 2017 and after the end of 2014, but really 2015, so between 2015 and 2017, you also will get free supercharging. And you can get free supercharging after that, depending on whether they were running that particular promotion. So some of them have, and it's for the lifetime of the car, not the lifetime of the owner. So if you buy one of these used Model S's, then you get free supercharging as well. And what I ended up doing is I had a 2014. I had one that was made like in October of 2014, which was the first ones off the line with autopilot. And that's why you want it to be after that date, because you do want autopilot. It is awesome, and you really want one. The new one I bought was a 2015, and of course it had autopilot. I bought it used. The guy who had bought it as a pre-owned, so he was the second owner, but he bought it as a certified pre-owned, which Tesla doesn't do anymore. And a certified pre-owned means that they extend the warranty, so it has a warranty till about 70,000 miles. I don't know, I'm pushing that 70,000 since now, and I take it in on Tuesday for some work, so hopefully the warranty is going to cover the thing I'm taking it in for, which was a recall. But if there's anything else going on, I'm hoping it will cover that too. So I managed to do that and found the money to make up the difference and accomplished that goal on June 15th, which was early. And I'm pretty confident that in most of these cases, I did not accomplish the goal in the time frame, and because 2020. So let's go on down. Let's hit some DFL goals that I actually did accomplish. It's important to have goals to not do things. And one of the things I don't want DFL to be this grind that I have to do every single week and come to hate. So I set a goal that I was going to take 3 1-week no DFL work breaks. What that meant was, in general, what it really meant was I had to get ahead on the DFL content. So I had to get all the Friday emails written. I had to get the video shot into my editor, preferably also with the descriptions already written, because those are all processes that I have to do. The thumbnails already created. And if I have all of that done, then I could turn the actual uploading over to my my editor, but in general, what I do is I went ahead and did the upload. So I guess technically I wasn't doing no work that week, but I was doing like 10 minutes of work to upload a video with all the content already written for it. And I did manage to do that 3 1-week breaks. I actually took 2 of them together. So we traveled we went to visit friends and go to Disney World in September, and that was 2 of those weeks. And then I don't know when the other week was. This thing, I finished it on September 14th, which would have been during that same trip. So it must have been I had another week earlier on. And I went to visit my father for the last 2 weeks, which I will get to in a minute. And I had all of this stuff done in advance. All right. Publish one video every week of the year. I did that. I got the system going, and I was 100% on that one. That was more of a habit kind of goal, which doesn't have, like, you don't know that you've accomplished that till you get to the end of the year. But I did, and the last video I wrote was the end of that. Write a book. There's an interesting story behind write a book, but let me skip write a book and come back to it. Run a workshop with at least 5 paying attendees. And I did that. I did a workshop for the library at Hardin-Simmons University in the middle of this year. That came to me in a surprise. I had a friend who's a librarian there, and she's like, you do this DFL stuff. Could you come do a workshop for us? How much would you charge for that? So I did that. We had about 5-6 people. It was a half-day workshop on how to think, how to use your brain. So it was pretty cool. It was fun. And all right, so let's go back to write a book. The interesting thing about write a book is that I put it in there at the beginning of the year thinking I wanted to write a distinctions book. So I want to write a Distinctions for Life book where I have every chapter is a distinction. And that was what I put on there when I was writing my goals out at the beginning of January. And then I was in the Catalyst Mastermind with Jason Van Orden, and I decided that, we were working on all kinds of different things that I could be doing. And at one point in there, they were like, you don't need to be writing a book, man. Like, that's just taking too much of your time away. You should do something else. You should get on the podcast. You should do X, Y, and Z. And I also am taking notes of things that I mentioned to put later in the show notes. Anyway, so about June, I switched this from being a goal to being in holding. So if you'll notice, there's a goal down there at the bottom to memorize 100 verses. That was memorize 100. It was a spiritual goal, memorize 100 verses of the Bible. And my brain's not that good apparently. So I put these in holding when I'm like, I'm giving up on this goal, which I try not to do at all, but it happens. We gotta be real. And so I had put that in holding. Not going to write a book, right? What's the point? Not going to write a book. And then NaNoWriMo came along. And I did Nano, and I kept writing, and on December 14th of this year, I finished the first draft of The Adventures of Space Girl Red. Now, I did notice when I was looking at this goal, which, let me see if I do this. When you use my little Notion do-jobber to do goal setting, you get all of these, which are sort of, they're part of the goal setting workshop, which if you go back to December of 2019, you can be stepped all through this. And so you have to write all this stuff down. Obviously, did a really great job of doing that with this goal. And when I was reviewing this, I learned a valuable thing. I didn't define done for write a book. So what constituted writing a book? Well, I'm taking it. I actually wrote to the end of The Adventures of Space Girl Red by December 14th. So I have a first draft of a novel, which was not what I was thinking when I wrote this goal, but I do have a first draft of a novel written in 2020. And I expect to publish that one in 2021. And so I ended up accomplishing write a book, even though I had put it back in holding. To go down to the last one in here that is accomplished, which was read completely 40 books in 2020. That was my goal, to read more. And I actually had a habit that went with that. The habit was to read for 20 minutes a day. And that was really there's 2 things I did to accomplish this goal of reading 40 books. One was I tracked what I read. I ended up using Goodreads to do that because they have a reading challenge, and I used their reading challenge, made it mine to do 40, and then I tracked which books I read with Goodreads. And the other thing was to read for 20 minutes every day, and I put that in my habit tracker, which I'm not going to show you today, but I may show in the near future, especially if you'd like to see it. If you want to know more about how I am going to do a series on time management, which will include showing you the habit tracker. That's coming in January of 2021. So anyway, I did do 40 books. I accomplished that actually quite a bit earlier than the end of the year. I did 51 books in 2020, and that was definitely accomplishing the goal. All right, so let's go to a few that I did not accomplish. I marked them as in progress. One was to have 1,000 subscribers on Distinctions for Life. I actually added 63 subscribers in 2020. Not even close to 1,000 in the end, but that's still my goal, and I currently have 440. So if you watch this later and you are not a subscriber, hit that button, man. Help me accomplish this goal. Now, these are definitely some things that you probably did not know about Distinctions for Life. One is that I had a goal to have a gross revenue of $40,000. I did not accomplish that. I had a gross revenue a little over $10,000. And most of that from the DFL point of view was from my mentoring, my one-on-one mentoring. But it does include quite a bit of development work that I did for different people, building websites and stuff like that. So that, obviously not the goal, but tracking it and having a goal is a good thing. And then I wanted to have $20,000 in owner's compensation, which is the amount that my size business should have based on the Profit First numbers. If you're wondering about Profit First, there'll be a link again in the show notes. I've already written down to put that one in, and you can go back and look at the Money Flow Framework episode on Profit First to explain how those percentages worked. But my percentage right now is nowhere near 50% of my gross income, which is what they want your owner's comp to be for a business under $1 million, I think. And that is not what happened. My owner's comp was about $535. So that's money that, was basically my salary for DFL, but not profit, which is a whole different thing. And I did have profit, but not that much. All right. So then I said I wanted to have 26 weeks. So half the year, I wanted to have a second episode of DFL. And as is, when you first write a goal, sometimes it ends up working differently than you expected. So all of these second episodes, so I did one episode every week of a distinction video. Those are the ones that come out on Sunday. But the second episode of all of this stuff were live streams. So I did the interview live stream stuff during lockdown, during quarantine. I don't like lockdown because it's a term that comes from prisons. And I would like to think that the government didn't just imprison most of the country, although in reality, that's exactly what they did. Okay. But 26 weeks. And then I did a few live streams for Nano, and I actually probably would have accomplished this. I ended up doing 23 live streams. But December turned into a train wreck and for productivity, which I will explain a little bit in a minute. And then the other thing I had as a personal goal was to read one chapter of the Bible every day. This, again, is a habit goal, which means you miss one, you've failed the goal if you look at it that way. But using my habit tracker, I can see what percentage of days I actually did do a reading. And that was about 63% of the days, which is not the greatest, but not the worst either. It's one of those things about goals, especially this kind of goal, where that's a lot more than I would have read without it, right? Like having that streak, having that count going up, those things help you to accomplish those goals. So about 63% of the time, I managed to read a chapter of the Bible every day. And then one of the things I have as a habit goal that's related to that is that I wrote about a one-sentence description of each of those chapters as I went, because I felt like when I read scripture that it was very easy for it to go in one ear and out the other. But if I have to summarize it into a sentence, that chapter, then I retain more of it, I focus more on it, and I engage more with it. So that was my goal. So every one of those chapters that I did read, I did that, and I have a tracker for that as well. I wanted to journal 3 times a week in 2020, and I don't know, I haven't done the stats on that one. I really should have before I started this. It's in my habit tracker in 2 different places. It's been sort of an up and down thing. Like, for instance, I know that I think I journaled twice in the entire month of November because journaling takes me about 20 minutes, and I felt like I'd use that time for writing. Plus, November was also sort of a train wreck of productivity, but less so than it could have been. But I was having to fit writing in, and giving up 20 minutes to do journaling was they came into conflict with each other, and I chose writing over journaling. And I think that was the right choice, but it does mean that I probably didn't accomplish this goal as well as I should have. I also feel like if I journal every day, I'm not getting a lot of benefit out of those next days because depending on what's going on in my life, but in general, if I write one day and then I write the next day and it's been sort of a normal day, it's like, what am I writing about? And I don't really write about what I did, but I write about what I think about. And if I'm thinking about stuff, then I don't know. I just don't feel like I have an original thought necessarily that next day. I was going to have a digital product for Distinctions for Life in 2020 that would sell for over $400, and that didn't happen for a number of reasons. And yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I weigh 190 pounds, so that was a habit to lose. I think to do 190 at the time, I had to lose about 10 pounds. And instead, if you look at all of 2020, I weigh significantly more at the end than the beginning, as I think do most of the population of the world, probably. And then lastly was the one that I told you I abandoned, which was to memorize 100 verses in the Bible. If you're going to count memorizing as remembering them now, I did not accomplish anything close to that because I don't think I even remember the ones I did memorize. All right, so that was a review of my goals. There's nobody in the chat, so I'm not going to ask any questions because nobody's going to answer them if I ask them. So what's the point? All right, what's next? That was goal review. So let's talk about present, and let's talk about November and December. I had an eventful November and December, but none of those events were good. And I've mentioned this a few times. I mentioned it on some live streams I did during Nano. I've mentioned it, I think, in the Things Change episode, the Embrace Constraints episode. All of those talk about it. So I do DFL. I do Things for Life full-time, this YouTube thing. And I work from home for the most part. So that means that 2020's big changes for everybody else, which is where you were forced to work remotely and be at home and have to do all that stuff, wasn't any different for me. It did mean there were a number of events I couldn't go to, or those events had to become virtual. But for the most part, most of 2020 was pretty standard Ron doing his thing. And I thought I was going to get out of 2020 without too much drama, And I know there are a lot of people in the world that this has been a really hard year for a number of different ways. And a number of people just, in the world didn't make it out of 2020. Well over 1 million people. And that's tragic. But for me, I was doing okay until Halloween. So Halloween, my wife broke her hip in a freak accident involving panties and clothes hampers, strangely enough. And people, I know I got the gray in the beard, but I am not really that old, and neither is my wife. So the hip breaking thing is kind of a surprise. It's funny because the orthopedic surgeon and all the doctors that we talk to in that whole process are like, well, you're so young. If you were old, I would tell you to do this. And we're all like, I'm old enough to break my hip. But, then I saw my dad, who is in his 80s, and that would be what turned December into a train wreck. My dad, who's in his 80s, right at the end of November, was diagnosed stage 4 cancer. And then you see what old is. When I went so that was December, right? So that was the big event in December, was that I spent 2 weeks around Christmas time with my father, taking him to the doctor for chemotherapy and all that, to give my brother a break, to be with my dad. Um, and that was very stressful for me, and very harder than I expected it to be, because, hey, man, I do this DFL stuff. I know how to handle my emotions. I know how to control my life. And you know what? Sometimes you don't have any control over your life. And even if you do, things are hard. Things are just hard because they're hard. They're not hard because you're doing anything wrong. And with Distinctions for Life, I guess what I do a lot of times is try to make sure you're not doing things wrong, because a lot of times the hardness of life can be made easier by you changing your actions. Not not that there's any condemnation for that. It's just that there are better ways to do things. Those are distinctions, right? There are better ways to do things. But sometimes your life is hard because of things that have nothing to do with you, right? And there's nothing you can do to change them. I can't change the fact my dad has cancer, and he's old, and those two things together mean he's very fragile, and that is that shows you some things in life. Anyway, so November, wife's in the hospital. She's in rehab. She's using a walker. She's doing physical therapy all the way through December. It's still ongoing in the physical therapy department. And then into November, find out my dad has cancer. Spending time there, having to get all of DFL done so that I can leave town, because I can't shoot those videos that come out on Sunday anywhere but here, like where I'm literally sitting, although that's something we'll talk about in just a minute about the future. So having to make all that stuff work. And then when I finally get there, having a very tough time, which takes a mental toll on you too, so that it's hard to think about the future and plan the future, which is a very big thing for me to do. And so that's why, for instance, I didn't get 2 more books read, because I just couldn't read 2 more books. I didn't get January planned for DFL. I didn't get scripts written for DFL. I didn't write any more on my novel or on the next one. So all of that stuff was just put on hold, not because I can't manage my time, not because I don't know what I should do, but because life is hard and things are hard. And that was what December was. Which I think is part of the reason I woke up this morning feeling like, heck, it's 2021 and things are going to be better. So I'm full of opportunity, full of awesomeness. And so I'm actually, partially because of that, and partially because I have done so much, and this one particular thing has been the focus of my life of every week. This thing has to be done, and has been done since September 29th of 2019. I have managed to do this every single week, which is put out that Sunday video for Distinctions for Life. And this Sunday, there's not going to be one. So this is going to be the first Sunday I have skipped, partially because I didn't get it done. I didn't get it planned. I don't know what it was going to be. And even as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, Ron, you're going to break your streak. You can't do that, man. That's going to totally suck if you break your streak. And there's a bunch of TikTok videos that I made that I could put into a best of sort of episode, because that would be a cheat, would be to do a best of episode, but that would also have involved going back through all of the stuff and coming up with stuff together, or having my editor do it. And I put off making this decision not to do this week's till I got back, and that meant that it wasn't ready. So, I can't give it to my editor today and say, hey, go do this, So anyway, I'm skipping Sunday. Yep, taking the day off. It's all right. It's okay. And so that's the first time. It's been 65 plus weeks in a row that I've produced that Sunday video, and this Sunday I won't. But I will be back the week after that. I will be back to outputting those, and I believe, because I haven't planned it yet, but I started planning it to be the thing, I am going to talk about how I do time management, which includes habits and tools and process, and all of it starts with having goals. So knowing what you want in life. And then, so goal setting, goal planning, accomplishment plan, all that planning stuff, that has to be done first before you can manage your time, or you can lead your time, as I like to put it, your time leadership, not time management. All that stuff has to happen before, but if you want to accomplish things on a daily basis, then you need to have a system, and I'm going to talk about my system. I have been reluctant to talk about it because it'll seem a little complicated, possibly. It'll seem a little overwhelming to people who have no system at all. But it works for me. And I'm hoping that if I share it with you guys, that somebody will learn something from it that they can implement that will help them get what they really want in life. And so I'm going to do a series on time leadership. Other things that are going to change. I'm going to have a new... I'm about to have a new thumbnail, and it's probably going to look like, not that. We got to do the other one. I have it up here. It's the thumbnail for this one, if you've seen the thumbnail for the live stream. That you don't hear me when I go away, but that's what it looks like. Weirdly, I can't share screen for that. Like, that's just the background. I can't make it show that. Nope, I can't. All right, so something like just a new look. I like it. I'm trying to like up the energy on this, and I may change the music too for Distinctions Fluff, but now I got to find music. If you followed me from the beginning, you know it took me like 6 months to figure out the piece of music that I'm using at the beginning, and I kind of feel like at one point I was like, I'm done trying to find a new one, because we did a different music every single episode to find one that stuck. And finally we got to this one, and I'm kind of like, that's good enough. And so I haven't done that. But I want to have a new higher energy one. What I would really like to do is a new set. And I'm going to have a new set sometime this year for sure. I just, it's this door bugs the crap out of me. This bugs the crap out of me. This curtain, which is new, I said a curtain because blue's a DFL color, but it doesn't go with the new thumbnail because there's blue on one side and then they just fade into each other. And I, smartly wore a blue shirt. That's another problem with it. So new set could be very different. I would like for it to be very different. See what else is coming for the future. There's gonna be new seasons. So I don't know if you noticed in that picture, but it said episode 1 of live stream 1, winter 2021. I do this thing where I have 3 seasons a year, and it's nice, and it gives a breakup, and it makes putting them together on YouTube easier, but it feels weird. And a lot of people I know who do podcasting, what they do for their seasons is, so they sort of have a year, and then they have a break in the middle. So like they would have the 2021 season, and they wouldn't put out episodes in the summer. That seems a weird break too. Once again, we're breaking based on school, I think. I mean, you could say we're doing it based on harvest time, which is what school's based on, but that's not really what's happening. So, new way of doing seasons, probably. Or I'll just clump everything as 2021, and you can look at live streams, or you can look at distinctions. Because that's sort of the negative of any season breakdown, is it's not content based, it's chronologically based. So if it's going to be chronologically based, why don't I just do year? Well, part of it is because then you're going to end up with 52 episodes, and that's a big number for people to scroll through if they're looking for something chronological, right? Like if you were to go look at the So the fall 2020 season has 15 episodes in it, and that's much easier to peruse. So anyway, thinking about doing something different with seasons, but I don't know what yet. And I still have to make some decisions. And those decisions are about whether to keep doing things I'm doing and what new things to do. One in particular is the Friday emails. So I do a Friday email where I suggest, it's very short, and you can subscribe to it by going to distinctionsforlife.tv, which, I don't even have up here. I'll say, where is that? I don't even have it. I can put this ticker up, but all that's doing is telling you the scales. Anyway, you can go to distinctionsforlife.tv and subscribe to that. You'll get a pop-up. You can't avoid it. I'm sorry. That's just the way the world works, people. Pop-ups are a thing. And anyway, on Fridays, it comes out. It gives you a book suggestion, a YouTube channel or website suggestion, a tool that I use, which could be a physical tool or it could be an online, a digital tool, and a subject to think about. And so they come out, it comes out every Friday. And at first it was really easy because I have a ton of that stuff. But now I feel like I'm pushing stuff in there that maybe I don't know as deeply as I would like to know it because I have to do it every week. I read 40 books last year. If I had suggested all of those to you, or I read 51 books. If I suggested just those books, that wouldn't have been enough. So I don't know. Gonna look into doing that. I think what's probably gonna happen is I'll do it less often, maybe every other week instead of every week. And then the other thing in the future that I have to make a decision about is whether or not I'm going to do some sort of interview format show. Yes, an interview format show. So there's kind of two options there. One is like what I did during quarantine, which was interview people on a live stream. It has pros and cons. It's pros because it's YouTube, and that's already what I'm doing. So it's a pro there. It gets you some watch time. That's YouTube cares about those watch hours, and that's all a plus. The negative to being only on YouTube is that it makes it complicated for the other side. Like the interviewer is not having to do just audio. They have to do video too. And while most people are a lot more comfortable with video maybe than they were in 2019, that doesn't mean they're very good at it. And therefore it may or may not look good. Plus, then there's this whole renaissance of podcasting, right? So I could do a podcast. And of course, there's no reason these have to be exclusive, right? Like I think a lot of what most people do for interviews is they do a podcast and they stream it. That's what Joe Rogan does, right? Like his is an audio podcast, but he streams the video. And then he takes that video and has it edited down and turned into segments that people can view. Well, I could do that, but that means it has to be edited. Editing is one of the expenses that DFL puts out and not something that necessarily gives it more money. So, but anyway, I would have to have that edited even in that, because that's the key, people, to doing a content channel is to have systems where you don't have to do the stuff that takes the most time. And editing is one of the things that takes the most time, either of an audio or a video. So anyway, but I want to do interviews because I've met a lot of people who are interesting and I would like to do interviews with. And I would also like all my live streams not to be Ron just talking to himself, which is like this one. So anyway, I want to have 2 distinction videos a week, 2 something from Distinctions for Life a week for this year. Matter of fact, I think what I've set as a goal, and I'm still working on my goals for 2021, is to have 100 episodes of Distinctions for Life in 2021, which dictates at least 2 things a week, especially when you consider the fact that I'm already going to miss the first one. So anyway, and then the last thing to decide about is some sort of course or mastermind or book or product or community of some sort that would be a paid tier for Distinctions for Life. I had my Clarity, Accountability, and Knowledge workshop that I planned out in detail in 2020, but was not able to fill. So that is something I'm still deciding on too, on how that will be. And I think that's going to be kind of organically decided in the sense that I'm not going to say, this is the product that I'm going to create and you should come buy it. I'm going to figure out how to reach people, how to find out what they want, and how to give it to them. Because the goal of Distinctions for Life is to help you get what you really want in life with small changes that make a big difference. If you were to run into me at a coffee, at a cocktail party, and you say, what do you do, Ron? That's exactly how I'd answer you. I say, I help people get what they really want in life with small changes that make a big difference. And I do that primarily through a YouTube channel called Distinctions for Life and a website of the same name, distinctionsforlife.tv. That is how I say what I do. And so if that's what DFL is, I got to figure out how to do that more in 2021. The other thing about 2021 is I've decided to be a writer. And by that, I mean a novelist. Someone asked the other day in a group setting that I was in, what are you looking forward to in 2021? And I said, I'm looking forward to publishing my first book. So The Adventures of Space Girl Red will be available for sale by the end of this quarter. Wow, Ron, you just set a deadline. I did. And then I will already be writing on the next one. So I intend to do a whole rainbow of books in that particular series. And that would make sense once you read Space Girl Red. So I am looking actually for beta readers for The Adventures of Space Girl Red. And if you're interested, you could leave a comment. You could message me on this. You could message me through my website. However, specifically, I would like to find women, younger women, to read the book. It's primarily about a female character, but it's written by a guy. It is what I call pinup sci-fi. So I think people who would be really interested in it would be cosplayers, burlesque dancers, women with moxie, and video gamers, that kind of people. So if you're one of those people and you want to read my book early, give me feedback, tell me I'm a sexist pig, or tell me I'm not, I'm the most awesomest writer ever, contact me, and I will let you be one of those people. I'm going to do an edit. My first run-through edit will start today, and hopefully it'll be done in a week or so, and then the book will be ready to go to beta readers. That's my plan at the moment, and then we'll figure out how to do things from there. All right, well, that is all that I have today, and I do have a sort of new theme that I'm thinking about for Distinctions for Life this year. A new, not really ending per se. Yeah, it'll be a new ending. And I'm going to wish you a good 2021. I hope you set and accomplish all your goals. And as we end today, I'm your host, Ron Davis. Go out and create something.